The Midline Theorem, Quarter 3, MELC 4. At the end of this lesson, you are expected to prove the midline theorem. Theorem 5. The segment that joins the midpoint of two sides of a triangle is parallel to the third side and half as long. Example. Given triangle HNS, O is the midpoint of HN, E is the midpoint of NS. Prove OE is parallel to HS, OE is 1/2 HS. So this is our given triangle HNS. O is the midpoint of this side HN, E is the midpoint of side NS. So we need to prove that OE is parallel. Take note of this symbol, it means parallel. OE is parallel to HS, and prove that OE is half the measure of HS. Proof. Statement number 1. Triangle HNS, O is the midpoint of HN, E is the midpoint of NS. Reason given. Take note in proving, always number 1, yung nakastate sa given. Tapos yung reason ay given. Next, number 2. In a ray opposite OE, there is a point T such that OE is congruent to ET. Take note of this symbol. This is read as congruent. Congruent means equal. So this is our ray OE. Opposite OE, there is a point T, at yung point T, such that OE is congruent to the measure of ET. The reason is in a ray, point at a given distance from the endpoint. Next, number 3. EN is congruent to ES. EN is here. ES, this one. Reason, definition of midpoint. Since nasa given na yung point E is the midpoint of NS, so that is EN is congruent to ES. Next, angle 2 is congruent to angle 3. Angle 2 is here, angle 3 is here. So these angles are vertical angles. So the reason is vertical angle theorem. Next, triangle ONE is congruent to triangle TSE. This is triangle ONE and triangle TSE. So the reason is side angle side congruence postulate, or SAS. So since we had proved above that this side is congruent to this side, and angle 2 is congruent to angle 3, and OE is congruent to ET, so that is side angle side congruence postulate. Next, angle 1 is congruent to angle 4. Since we had proved that this triangle is congruent to this triangle, hence corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So angle 1 is also congruent to angle 4. So remember CPCTC. CPCTC, that is corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Next, HN is parallel to ST. If alternate interior angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. So, this angle 1 and angle 4 are alternate interior angles. So, since they are congruent, then the lines HN and ST are parallel. Next, number 8. OH is congruent to ON. OH is congruent to ON. So, the reason is definition of midpoint, since O is the midpoint of HN according to the given. Next, ON side ON is congruent to side TS. ON is here, TS is here. Reason, CPC, TC in statement number 5. Since this triangle is congruent to triangle TES. Next, OH is congruent to ST. OH is congruent to ST. So that is transitive property. So since OH is congruent to ON and ON is congruent to TS, so we can say that OH is also congruent to ST or TS. The same lang yung TS at saka ST. So yung ON, pinalitan lang siya ng OS. Since OH is also congruent to ON. Next, number 11 statement. Quadrilateral HOTS is a parallelogram. So this is HOTS na parallelogram. Reason, definition of parallelogram since parallel yung HO sa TS. Next, OE is congruent to HS. Reason, OE is on the side of parallelogram HOTS. Next, OE plus ET equals OT. So, OE plus ET equals OT. That is segment addition postulate. Next, OE is congruent to OE is equal to OT. That is substitution in statement number 2. So, statement number 2, OE is congruent to ET. Next, 2OE is equal to OT. So that is addition. Since statement number 2, OE is congruent to ET, so we can replace ET by OE. Since congruent lang naman yung OE sa ET. So OE plus ET, so we can say also that OE plus OE since ET is congruent to OE. Kaya, meron ditong OE is congruent to OE is equal to OT. Next, since yung dalawang OE, so pwede siyang gawing 2OE. Kasi dalawa sila. Dito, OE plus ET at yung ET pwedeng palitan ng OE. So, pwede maging 2OE is equal to OT. So, that is addition. Next, HS is congruent to OT. HS is congruent to OT. So that is parallelogram property. Next, 2OE is equal to HS. So doblehin itong OE. So equal din siya sa HS. That is substitution. Next, OE or side OE is 1/2 of side HS. The segment joining the midpoints of two sides of a triangle is half as long as the third side. So itong OE, so ito yon. That is the segment joining the midpoints of two sides. Since O is the midpoint of HN, and E is the midpoint of NS, so OE is the midpoint, or the segment rather, joining the midpoints of these two sides. So that's it. OE is equal to 1/2 HS. Reason is substitution. Statement number 14, OE is congruent to OE. And statement number 15, 2OE is equal to OT. So, paano siya naging OE is equal to 1/2 HS? Here, in statement number 17, if we divide both sides by 2, para ma-isolate yung OE sa left side, so, ito, na-isolate na yung OE. And then, mayroon dito sa right side, 1/2. Kasi yung HS ay dinivide natin sa 2 para ma-isolate yung OE. Kaya siya naging OE is equal to 1/2 HS. Midpoint Theorem. The line segment connecting the midpoints of two sides of a triangle is parallel to the third side and is congruent to 1/2 of the third side. So, itong midpoint theorem ay katulad na rin siya, or it is also the midline theorem. So, this is the midline of our triangle ABC. So, DE is the segment connecting the midpoints of the two sides of a triangle and is parallel to the third side and congruent to 1/2 the third side. So, this TE is 1/2 of the measure of BC. So, that is the statement of the midline theorem. Point D and E are the midpoints of side AB and side AC, respectively. Also, the segment DE connects the two sides at the midpoints. Then, DE is parallel to BC and DE is half the length of side BC. So, yan yung sinabi ko kanina. Thank you.